morning. Welcome back to First Talk with Hal Row on 1290 WHKY Talk Radio for the Greater Hickory Metro. Two participants this morning who were talking about the Hickory Charter Amendment, what's being called the Ward Referendum. Join us this morning, Mr. Joe Brannick, Chair of the Citizens for Equity in Government Referendum Committee, as well as Mr. Paul Byrd, the Chair for No Steps Backwards. Gentlemen, I want to thank both of you very much for your time this morning. Thank you for joining us and for coming in and sitting down and talking about the different aspects of what's going on with this very important special election that's coming up in the city of Hickory. We'll start with a 1-minute introduction and opening statement from each of you. We had a coin toss this morning, actually a clay poker chip toss this morning. And Mr. Brannick, if you would please, we have 1 minute for you for an introduction and opening statement. So if you would please, Mr. Joe Brannick, Chair, Citizens Equity for Government Referendum Committee.
First of all, thanks, Hal, for putting this together this morning. Thank Mr. Byrd for coming in and giving up of his time as well. Why are we doing this? Why did this come about? I believe Hickory City government is fundamentally broken. The system is stagnant. Ideas are not coming to the front, are not being discussed. Citizens are not being heard. I believe they're discouraged. I believe voter participation is down, candidate participation is down, and I feel this is just a way to breathe new life into a stagnant body.
Very good, Mr. Brannick's opening statement. Thank you very much. Mr. Paul Byrd, Chair of No Steps Backwards, you have 1 minute for your opening statement, sir.
Oh, thank you, sir. And Joe, thank you for being here as well. On the contrary, I don't think the city government is broken. I think the glass is more than half full. I think the opposition feels that it's more than half empty, but the problem is they're trying to break the glass. We have a good city government. There is access to all representatives. People have cell phones to the mayor and the council, and you have access, and your voice can be heard. And right now, it can be heard by all 6 city councilmen and the mayor, and not just one ward representative and the mayor.
Very good. The opening statement from Mr. Byrd. Thank you both very much. We're going to go ahead with an opening question, and what we'll do this morning is we'll have questions. You'll have time to answer those questions, we hope fully, 2 minutes each to answer the questions. And, of course, we will have time after that. Then we'll come back and have a rebuttal to each of those questions. So not only will you have an opportunity to express your opinion, but you'll also have a chance for a rebuttal to come back regarding the questions that have been asked. Mr. Byrd, first, if you would please tell us, in your opinion, what is the main issue in the proposed City of Hickory Charter Amendment, or what is being called the Ward Referendum votes? Again, your opinion of the main issue in the proposed City of Hickory Charter Amendment, the Ward Referendum. And, sir, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I know what the main issue is. It's no doubt, it was clear in my mind when I first heard about this. The main issue is that every citizen of Hickory, every registered voter, if this thing passes, is going to lose 5 votes. You are going to give up 5 votes for council members outside of your ward, and you'll be reduced to just your ward and the mayor. I think it diminishes your effectiveness to get answers and results out of city council. And in all my years of life, this is the first time I've ever had to encounter something that wants to take the franchise away from people. And that's why I'm in this. I have always believed in the right to vote. It's a sacred constitutional right.
Very good. All right, Mr. Brannick, if you would, we'll do the question first, then we'll come back with the rebuttals. The same question to you, of course. In your opinion, what is the main issue in the proposed City of Hickory Charter Amendment, or what's being called the Ward Referendum? And, Mr. Brannick, you have 2 minutes, sir.
I respectfully disagree. I do not believe people are being heard. I think that is evident by just the unbelievably low voter turnout. In managing my cousin Hank Guess's campaign, which we were successful, we, out of 40,000 people, we had less than 10% people participate in that election. Of the past 3 city council races, nobody ran opposed. People are disengaging from participating participating in government. I understand the right to vote. Right now, you have a privilege to vote for all 6 ward representatives. But our Constitution, the American way, is one man, one vote, not one man, 6 votes. And right now, my right to vote is being trampled upon by 5 other people outside of my ward that don't have an interest in the ward, don't have a presence in the ward, don't know the ward, don't know the needs of the ward. And, I want my right of one man, one vote restored.
Now, of course, we are going to give you the 1 minute to respond to any rebuttal for anything that Mr. Byrd specifically said. If you'd like that 1 minute now, Mr. Brannick, please.
Here again, it's just an American principle. One man, one vote. That's how we elect congressmen. That's how we elect North Carolina state assemblymen. That's how we elect school board members. One man, one vote. I don't see how effectively one council member can represent 40,000 people. I do believe one council member can very effectively and adequately represent 6,700 people in one ward. It makes their job a lot easier.
Mr. Brannick, thank you very much. And Mr. Byrd, you'll have 1 minute for any rebuttal for the statements made so far by Mr. Brannick on this morning's question.
Okay, thank you. I think Mr. Brannick is confusing voter apathy and trying to parallel that into the performance of city council. You can't legislate voter apathy. You can't force people to go vote. If people don't go vote, that's not my problem. That's their problem. And voter apathy, it's there, and it's there for a reason, but people need to rise up and vote. They don't need to be having their votes taken away from them. And I think what we've had for 42 years has worked pretty good.
Mr. Brannick, Mr. Byrd, thank you very much. That's the first part of our debate this morning. I thank you very much. And when we come back, we'll have question number 2. We'll also have a third segment where we'll have a third question, and then we'll also give you time this morning for a final statement. Mr. Brannick, Mr. Byrd, Mr. Byrd, Mr. Brannick, thank you both very much. More First Talk right after the program, right after the break. Good morning. Welcome back to First Talk with Hal Row on 1290 WHKY Talk Radio for the Greater Hickory Metro. We're talking this morning with Mr. Joe Brannick, Chair of the Citizens for Equity and Government Referendum Committee, and Paul Byrd, Chair of No Steps Backward. We're talking about the upcoming special election for the City of Hickory, the proposed City of Hickory Charter Amendment, which being referred to as the Ward Referendum. We're giving questions this morning and giving hopefully ample amount of time to answer those questions, and then rebuttals from each of the individuals who are here supporting the different groups. Coming up next, Mr. Brannick, you will have the answer for the opportunity to answer the next question first. And in this case, this is more a little bit of the meat of the topic this morning. So we're going to give you an opportunity to spend at least 3 minutes for an answer, and then each of you will have 1 minute for rebuttal to the other individual's answer. So, Mr. Brannick, next question: Why voters should vote yes or no in the proposed charter amendment? We see signs out there, yes, no. We hear some people, why do I need to vote? Why shouldn't I vote? Why should voters vote yes or no on the proposed charter amendment or ward referendum? Mr. Brannick, you have 3 minutes.
I think they should vote yes, to change the way we elect city council members. Here again, I believe with low voter turnout, with no participation or real participation from candidates, people are just disengaged. Mr. Byrd, says, the city of Hickory, is engaging, does listen to people. Here I have, this just represents the city's, Hickory Inc., city council's mentality. Here we have a city council agenda. We have reaffirmation and ratification. We have consent agenda. We have public hearings. We have departmental reports. They vote and they vote and they vote and they vote. And then all the way here in the back, very last thing, citizens requesting to be heard. Okay? We're more than happy to listen to our citizens after we make the decisions, after we tell them what we believe is in their best interest, after the ink is dry on everything. We're the only city that does that. Catawba County commissioners don't do that. Citizens requesting to be heard is first on the agenda. It's first on the agenda in Iredell County, Caldwell County, Statesville, Alexander County, Taylorsville, Lenoir City Council. Hickory City Council allows citizens to be heard after the decisions have been made. With this, hopefully, people will feel they are being heard. They can get new representatives on the council who represent their wards, their interests, who represent them. And maybe we can change the way how city government works. In the example of, let's move the people requesting to be heard to the front. Let them be heard first by their elected officials, and then let the elected officials make the decisions. Don't make the decisions and then go back and say, "How'd I do?"
Mr. Brannock, thank you very much. Mr. Byrd, same question. Why should voters vote yes or no on the proposed charter amendment? Mr. Byrd, you have 3 minutes.
Well, I go back to what I said earlier. If you vote this thing in, you're going to lose 5 votes on city council. You're going to be down to 1 vote for your ward, and you're going to be down to 1 vote for the mayor. I want to make reference here and paraphrase a great American, Neil Armstrong, who recently died. When he went to the moon, he came off and he said, "This is one giant step for man and one giant leap for mankind." I think what we're proposing here is one small step for Hickory and one giant leap backwards for Hickory, the citizens of Hickory, and the loss of their vote. I know in a previous debate, Joe and the mayor debated, and Joe's contention was that, well, you really didn't, we're not taking 5 votes away from you. Because when this thing went through, it wasn't voted on by the people, it was taken to Raleigh and it was passed there. And so his comment struck me when he said that just because it's written in the law, it's not your right. That's a little bit out there for me. If it's written in the law, it is my right. And he's indicating that for 42 years we've been doing it wrong, and now we need to go back to the way it was 42 years ago, probably before he was born. I don't agree with that. I'm not going to give up my right to vote. I'm just not going to do it. I'm a Vietnam War veteran. I know what it costs for freedom, and I'm not going to do this. And I'm going to call on every citizen of Hickory who is concerned about their progress and the progress of the city, and not get into this thing, because there are some statistics that will tell you that ward representation actually decreases voter participation. A lot of times when people stay home, they're not unhappy. They may not be as interested in things. Now, if there's something wrong, they'll come to the polls. We've seen that time and time again. And we're going to see a turnout starting tomorrow. And I'm encouraging everyone to come out and vote this thing down.
Now, Mr. Brannock, we are going to give you, Mr. Byrd, we are going to give you the 1-minute rebuttal for anything that you would like to address specifically that Mr. Brannock said in his earlier comments, and you have 1 minute for that rebuttal.
Well, I don't need to rebut anything he said.
Very good. Okay. Mr. Brannock, you have 1 minute to rebut anything, of course, that Mr. Byrd just said in his answer to the last question. 1 minute, sir.
Well, I did, regarding your right, I think everybody in here has a driver's license, and it is written in the law that you can have a driver's license. The state does not give you the right to have a driver's license. The state gives you the privilege to have a driver's license. I'm for voting rights, absolutely. Everybody in this country has a right to vote, guaranteed by the Constitution. But the principle is, the American way is, the conservative Republican principle is, 1 man, 1 vote. Not 1 man, 6 votes. Again, I am all for people voting. I am not for people's vote counting more so than mine. 1 man, 1 vote. It's the American way, it's the Republican way. As far as veterans go, 2 veterans that I talked to that signed the petition commented to me on why they signed it. The military has gone across this entire world fighting in foreign lands so that others may have the have the right to choose their own futures, elect their own representatives, have their voices heard.
And that's 1 minute, Mr. Byrd.
Okay, 1 minute.
Thank you very much. Well, we'll be back.
We'll be back.
We'll be back. We do have one more question left as we approach our third segment. And then we'll, before we wrap up this morning, in the last segment of the program, we will have closing statements from Mr. Byrd and Mr. Brannick. Our guest this morning, Mr. Paul Byrd. He is chair of No Steps Backwards here in Hickory. Also, Mr. Joe Brannick, chair for Citizens for Equity in Government Referendum Committee. Both of them, of course, addressing the issues surrounding the upcoming special election that will be happening in the city of Hickory. We're very fortunate that both gentlemen were able to join us this morning because early voting does start tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Early voting does start tomorrow. Of course, we will have the election coming up in the month of September. We hope you'll stay tuned. More First Talk following the break. Of course, we will have another question for Mr. Byrd and Mr. Brannick, and we will wrap up this morning with the closing statements. We do want to let you know that we are not taking phone calls this morning. We felt like it wasn't fair to the candidates. Just to let you know, the candidates did receive the questions shortly prior to the debate this morning to make sure that we did not put anything out there as a surprise question. So they had a moment or two, not a lot of time, but a moment or two to review the questions before we started this morning. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes with Mr. Paul Byrd and Mr. Joe Brannick after the break.
Best in talk radio every day on 1290 WHKY.
Good morning. Welcome back to First Talk with Hal Row on 1290 WHKY Talk Radio for the Greater Hickory Metro. Our guest this morning, Mr. Joe Brannick. He's the chair of Citizens for Equity in Government Referendum Committee, and Mr. Paul Byrd, chair of No Steps Backwards. Of course, we're talking about the special election that's coming up in the city of Hickory for the Hickory Charter Amendment. It's being called the Ward Referendum. You've seen around the town the signs saying yes or no. Mr. Brannick and Mr. Byrd in discussing the issues surrounding the upcoming vote for the city of Hickory. We'll continue on this morning. Mr. Byrd will have the first opportunity to answer the question. We're back to 2 minutes on these. And then, of course, the rebuttals will be at 1 minute each. Mr. Byrd, in your opinion, how will the charter amendment, if passed, change the Hickory City Council? And I'd like you, please, to speak to the character and personality of the City Council rather than the actual workings of the council. How will the charter amendment or ward referendum, if passed, change the Hickory City Council? And again, we're talking about the character or personality of the council rather than the actual workings. And, sir, you have 2 minutes.
All right. Thank you, Hal. Well, as far as change, yes, it could result in as few as maybe 300 votes electing a member to council. Now, some people think that's wonderful, and some people think it's not. I know Joe's made comments about working with his cousin and thought that the cost of running was too high and felt like, well, if we change this just to a ward vote only, then somebody could get elected for maybe as little as $500. That almost sounds to me like alderman in a box. Like the wife would say, honey, I'm going to the market, I'm going to get some eggs and bread, and can I get anything for you? Yeah, pick me up one of those alderman in a box kits. And it's just like the North Carolina League of Municipalities pointed out. When you go to this kind of thing, you're going to have a lot of people who are all of a sudden fired up and think they're going to get elected for office, and then they're going to be not disenfranchised, but they're going to be discouraged when they find out that no, they're not going to be elected to office. There's a certain thing to be said for some continuity. A lot of people talk about term limits. I don't agree with that. I think your term limit is when the voters, the constituency, decide there's a better candidate, and there's your term limit, and you're gone. So if you're in there for 2 terms or 1 term or 10 terms, that's up to the voters. And that's where I stand with that. But I think, yeah, it'd probably be more turnover, but my concern is that it's probably going to be more turmoil, because when you've got a very small amount of voters appointing someone to a very serious position, it can create problems.
And Mr. Byrd, that's right at 2 minutes. Thank you very much. Mr. Brannock, same question. In your opinion, how will the charter amendment or ward referendum, if passed, change the Hickory City Council? And again, speak to the character and personality of the City Council rather than the actual workings. And sir, you have 2 minutes.
I agree. It will increase or promote turnover on council. I think right now we have entrenched incumbency prevalent on the council. If going to a ward system would decrease the cost of having to run a campaign. It would decrease the time having, it is time consuming to run a citywide campaign. It's expensive to run a citywide campaign. Young people, old people, retiring to the community, people that have lived here their entire lives that haven't been involved but are, maybe retiring and looking for something new in the later stage of life. It's intimidating to have to run citywide. It's expensive. Ward style system would bring down the cost. It would take the candidates. You would know your ward representatives. Right now, a city council member can be elected to city council and not have to receive one single vote from their ward, and they would still win, hands down. As far as debate on council right now, over the past 3 years, 98.5% of the time, this council has voted unanimously. The three times in the past 3 years they did not vote unanimously, they were 6-1 votes. That, to me, shows a lack of debate, a lack of discussion of different ideas, different perspectives. I don't see how 7 people, in the hundreds and hundreds of votes that they've taken, how 7 people can come to the same conclusion that many times on that many issues. We need debate. We need to discuss the issues publicly. We need people to get involved. People need to be heard. People need to feel that they're being heard.
Okay, very good. And you were right at 2 minutes as well. Now, you do have 1 minute to a rebut or a rebuttal to anything that Mr. Byrd may have said in his last comments.
Right. People getting involved, people being heard at City Council, different ideas being expressed, different points of view being debated. Only 2 things can happen. If when you have debate, when you have discussion, only 2 things. Bad ideas can be stopped, and good ideas can be made better. I look at the structure downtown. It was decided upon with no public input. It could be a great thing. One thing I would like to see is the lighting. They're all white lights. I think it would be a great thing to put different colored lighting on the structure downtown, so when we're going to light it up at night, you could have a red sail or a blue sail and a green sail. It could change with the seasons. It could change with the holiday seasons. But something like that, no input was taken. No public input was sought after for this structure. We got what we got. And, it could be the greatest thing, but again, people feel disenfranchised, feel shut out, no involvement.
That's 1 minute. Thank you, Mr. Brannock. And Mr. Byrd, you have a minute right now to rebut anything in these past questions or comments that Mr. Brannock had made. Mr. Byrd, you have 1 minute, sir.
Well, I think the sales downtown is a good thing, and I suppose it was on the consent agenda. I've learned a little bit about that. I'm not an expert in city government technicalities. There is a lot of common agreement among the council, but what Mr. Brannock doesn't point out is that I've talked to council members, and they say a lot of these votes that they take are not instantaneous votes. They do a lot of research and discussion way before the time. Now, some of this stuff is routine. You're going to lower speed limits in 6 areas. You're going to gravel some road. You're going to widen a road. A lot of that's routine. So to say, well, it's statistically improbable that they couldn't be possibly doing that, and they're all up there huddling up together and trying trying to come up with a unanimous vote without the interest of the people of Hickory, just to me, is not going to wash. That's like a rock and roll drummer trying to get a job with a bluegrass band.
Well, Mr. Byrd, that's 1 minute, so I thank you both very much. And when we come back, we'll have closing statements from Mr. Brannock, Chair of Citizens for Equity and Government Reform Committee, as well as Mr. Paul Byrd, Chair of No Steps Backwards. Again, early voting starts tomorrow. You've seen the signs around town. Now vote yes or vote no. We'd also encourage you to speak with members of both of these committees if you're interested. Contact the chairs, contact the committees, and go online. Talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors, and become a well-informed voter. Make sure that when you go to the polls for the special election in September, you know what you're voting for, or you know what you're voting against. We encourage that, and that's why we try to have an open forum here on the First Talk Radio program. Try to get the right people in on the microphones and try to ask them the questions that we think you'd be interested in, and try to give you the best information that you can have going in to the polls. Again, early voting starts. It's called the City of Hickory Charter Amendment. It's been referred to as the Ward Referendum. Again, you'll have the opportunity to vote yes or no. It'll be a simple vote. It is not part of the general election. We want to make sure that people understand that. There has been some discussion about that it is not part of the general election coming up in November. This will be a special election. Early voting starts tomorrow. You're going to want to check with your local Board of Elections and find out where early voting will be held and the hours in case you do want to do the early voting. You can do that. And, of course, we'll be back with more First Talk closing statements from Mr. Joe Brannock and Mr. Paul Byrd to wrap up this morning after the break here on First Talk. Welcome back to First Talk with Hal Row on 1290 WHKY Talk Radio for the Greater Hickory Metro. A big thank you to our guests this morning who took time out of their busy schedule to come in and talk about the causes they believe in, the yes or no vote in the proposed City of Hickory Charter Amendment, the Ward Referendum. Mr. Paul Byrd, Chair of No Steps Backwards, joins us this morning, as well as Mr. Joe Brannock. He's the Chair of Citizens for Equity in Government, the Referendum Committee. I want to thank both of them, and I want to thank our callers this morning. We are not taking any phone calls. We want to remind you of that. Normally we open the phone lines, but we have guests in the studio. But we wanted to make sure that we don't have any surprise questions. We don't want to do an ambush. We want to make sure that both of our candidates this morning had at least a little time to review the questions that we prepared for them, and to make sure that they had an opportunity to answer those. We don't want to have somebody call in and state questions or present questions that may be inappropriate and not give the candidate, not the candidates, but the representatives a fair chance to cover the questions that we have this morning. We've got closing statements coming up right now. We'll have 2 minutes for each of those. And then, of course, after those closing statements, each of the individuals will have 1 minute for any type of rebuttal. We'll go ahead and close the closing statement this morning. We'll start with Mr. Byrd. Mr. Byrd, sir, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Hal. Let me say that I don't really want to be here. I don't want to be engaged in a political fight. I've never been engaged in a political fight, but I have to be here because I'm a citizen of Hickory. I'm not a citizen of a ward. I'm a citizen of Hickory. And I think that what we're embarking on here is going to be fundamentally a bad thing for the next 50 or 100 years. So for those of you who have not given this consideration, I want to reiterate to you that you're going to lose 5 votes. If you're fine with that, then you'll vote yes. If you believe that you want to have some control over the people who determine your services and set your tax rates and fees, then you're going to vote no. I think this is very, very important. I want to also close and make a few comments about the opposition signs. There are statements on those signs that I do not agree with. $1 million tent. I don't agree with that. The mayor has said that structure was $501,000. I don't know that number is really believed or accepted, but it's out there, and that's what it is. You might as well say it's a $2 million or a $10 million tent. It doesn't matter to me. It just stirs emotions. I don't like this business of the elite. Who are the elite? I'm not. I came to Hickory when I was 2 years old. My father was a janitor at night, so he could go to Clevenger Business College and learn enough about business to not work in a mill. The people up there that are in council and the people of downtown, they're not elite to me. I see organic farmers at the farmers markets, people selling produce and crafts and soaps. I don't like the tenor of their sign. I don't like the meanness. I don't like these bogus letters to the editor from someone named William Shaddop.
And you'll have a minute for a rebuttal, but right now that is your 2 minutes. So, Mr. Byrd, thank you. Mr. Brannick, closing statement at 2 minutes, and again, you will have a rebuttal.
I'll address the tent. Here again, is it $1 million? Could very well be. Mayor says it's $501,000. He also said it was $240,000. Then he said it was $487,000. Now he's saying it's $501,000. Next week, tomorrow, I don't know. It could be $600,000. I don't know. I haven't seen a line item budget from the city to really account for the actual cost. Elite. I've been told by council members when I asked, why did you vote that way? Well, because I have information you don't have. We know better. We know what's right. We don't need public input to make the decisions we make. That is an elite mindset. It's not about economics. It's not about prosperity. It's about a mindset. It is an elite mindset when you know better, when a singular person knows better than a group of people. If it's emotion invoking, I don't know. The other side has used language such as radical. The mayor came on this radio show and called comments that I made sinister, and then he turned around and made the same comment. We see language on Facebook pages of city council members and written in the paper, Chicago-style politics, Tammany Hall on the Catawba. The mayor uses the word crackpot to describe potential people who are going to run for council. Again, if you're offended by the word tent, I apologize. I am offended by the word radical, sinister, crackpot, Chicago-style politics, Tammany Hall on the Catawba. That's inflammatory in my mind.
Now, Mr. Brannick, of course, you'll have 1 minute now for rebuttal for anything that Mr. Byrd has presented in the last segment or this morning. 1 minute, sir.
Here it is. You have a right to vote. You are one man, one woman. You have one vote. Not one man, 6 votes. It's the American principle. Again, we elect congressmen that way. We elect state assembly members that way, state legislative members that way. We elect school board members that way. That's how things are done. It's the American way. It's a conservative principle. As I think we're both Republicans, that's what we believe in. I will say this, I hate we're on radio, but to make a point, Mr. Byrd, you commented in the paper, whether you like the way the egg is cooked, we still have an egg. I want to give you eggs from my backyard, from my chickens. I want you to stipulate one thing. Yeah. I want you to take these eggs home and enjoy them with your wife. I know you're trying to lose weight. These are healthy eggs. Okay? One stipulation. I want you to cook these eggs any way you want to.
And Mr. Brannick, that's 1 minute. Thank you very much. Mr. Byrd, you will have 1 minute this morning and to finish up our question and answer debate. Rebuttal, sir, 1 minute.
Well, I'd have to give him credit. He did ambush me with eggs. I didn't know I thought he might throw them at me, but he didn't. I've only got a minute. I want to say this again and again and again. This is important. We have variance of opinion here. But I think this is like trying to row the ship of state into a fog bank. We don't know what we're going to get into. We don't know what we're going to get out of. There may be changes in the future as a result of this, and that may be good. But I still maintain that you need to have the right to vote for everyone who makes decisions about your tax rates and about your service rates. And we need to go forward and come out tomorrow and vote no for early voting over at Stanford Park near the Armory. And on September the 18th, we need to come out and vote no. It's important for Hickory. It's going to be important for a long time.
Polls open at 8 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Mr. Byrd, Mr. Brannock, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time this morning. Also, your attitudes. It's great to be able to disagree without being disagreeable. I thank you both very much for joining us this morning. And to both of you, we wish you the very best. And a nice handshake here this morning, just to let you know as we're finishing up. We're going to go ahead and close the way we normally do with our national anthem.